Today, I think it's still a balance point that we need to find. I think if you have a guest that's paying a lot of money for an internet connection, they're going to be unhappy. If you have a guest that's not paying anything for their internet connection, but it's a poor experience, they're still going to be unhappy. So how do we find that balance point where the hotel can put the infrastructure in place to make sure the guest has a good experience, and yet are not trying to scrimp on the bandwidth in order to make sure that there's enough there for the guests to use? Because we know that the common issue where as your price goes down, your consumption and usage goes up, which means you need to buy more bandwidth, your cost goes up, you're losing the revenue to help offset that. So how do we find that balance point where we can still give them a good connection, a satisfactory experience, but they're not paying too much? And it's not just about the cost, it's what else is managing that bandwidth. It's not, you can throw as much bandwidth into the hotel as you can get.
I have, strangely enough, quite strong views on Wi-Fi and on free Wi-Fi. I come from the generation which says if it's free, it's probably free for a reason. The reason normally anything is free is it's not very good. And therefore, if it's not very good and it's free, you're not going to complain because it's free. I think Wi-Fi is an amenity now which should be in every hotel, which is of high quality in every single hotel. I actually believe that Wi-Fi should be chargeable in every hotel because I believe that there is a value for it. If it is chargeable, it needs to be good, and the hotel needs to have a big pipe because if they charge for it. So what we tend to see happening now is that with tiered bandwidth coming in, hotels are saying, and I stayed in a hotel 2 nights ago in Berlin which had exactly this system. So they give free Wi-Fi, but the Wi-Fi bandwidth for free was 256k. So if you just want to get your emails, it's free, and that's fine with me. I wanted to have a Skype conference. I then upgraded to the premium level, which at that particular hotel was about 15 euros. It annoyed me because during a 2-hour Skype call, I dropped out 3 times. Because of the bandwidth. So if they've got the audacity to charge me, it should at least be good bandwidth coming into the hotel. So in answer, should it be free or not? Do you know what? I leave that to the hotels. I really do. I think there is a growing acceptance of it should be free, but what you get for free is absolute minimum. Why should the guest not be charged for bandwidth demand when he's streaming or when he wants video conferencing? He should pay for that, and I feel quite strongly. So that's my view on Wi-Fi.
I think free Wi-Fi is the same thing as freedom of speech. It is a commodity, faced reality. We need free Wi-Fi. The most irritating is like most of us, I travel quite a bit, and when I need my smartphone the most, when I need internet access, it's when I'm traveling, and that's when it works the least. I cannot get onto the networks, it's darn expensive and complicated. That's when I need my traveler applications, that's when I need my maps, when my check-in services, and having to go through the hassle of paying for it. It's commodity, it's a necessity. Might even be needed to check into your hotel with your systems. So face reality, it has to be free or reasonably priced. And I'm also dubious about tiered services, but that might have a marketplace in some places depending on the price of the goods we're selling. But we need infrastructure, we need free Wi-Fi, and it should be easy to log on. Has to work.
Free Wi-Fi, it's a question that's been going on for at least 5 years. I personally think that in a hospitality or in a hotel, it's not a simple matter of putting up a single access point. The argument's always been, well, in Starbucks, for example, you have free Wi-Fi. It's easy to do it in a scenario such as that. You have a single access point, everybody can connect. In a hotel, it's a much more dynamic environment, and to be reliable, it has to be intuitive to the guest. And there's an investment required to do that. So we take the freemium approach, where we will put in a certain amount of bandwidth that's free to the guest, and if the guest then would require more bandwidth and they want to consume a lot of more bandwidth, then we look at a charge being passed across to the guest. So it's almost a consumption-based model that we're looking at the moment. Ultimately, will it be free? Possibly, but not in all geographic locations. It's still today very expensive to run internet bandwidth into remote locations, island locations, and you can't realistically give guests 2 meg of bandwidth for every guest into a location where you can actually only run a 2 meg pipe. So I think certain locations you're always going to have a requirement to charge or limit bandwidth to the guests.
It should be a free amenity because that's what the customer wants. The question is, how does a hotel continue to fund the infrastructure and the pipe when it's continuing to increase? Because we know that if something is free, then people abuse it and use it incessantly. So my answer to the question is, yes, it should be free for a basic service, but then we should be offering tiered bandwidth. We as an industry have done a very poor job to understand the needs of our customers, and we should be saying to a customer or a guest, if you want to download a movie or view a YouTube video, we suggest this is the plan you should be on, and maybe you should be charged $3 or $4 or $5. But we don't do that, so everyone elects to go on free. It's a poor service, and then there's no winners at all because the hotel thinks it's doing the right thing in the end. So if it came to a choice between good internet and I had to pay as opposed to free Wi-Fi and it's poor, I'll pay every time.
This is a question that should have been put to bed years ago. My thoughts on this is, depends on the property. I would say for the majority of hotels, yes, it should just be free. Careful with free. Free and it doesn't work is not good. Free and it works is what is needed. But we also have to remember, for certain properties, getting internet is a major headache. If you're running an island resort and you don't have the luxury of being in a city centre, Western Europe or US or wherever it is, then you're going to have a huge cost of getting Wi-Fi. And I think the consumer, as long as you inform them of that, would be willing to pay based upon the situation. But I think ideally nowadays, Wi-Fi needs to become a free amenity to our guests. Bearing in mind, you look at all the research done, it is the #1 amenity requested by our guests.